Good afternoon, ladies and gents, and welcome to another edition of Money Talk with Melanie. I am your business diva, Melanie Collette. Very happy to be with you this afternoon. I'm sorry I am late. Ran into a little bit of technical difficulties. Such a funny story. And basically kind of blew right through the news portion of the show. Now that I'm looking at the time, but that's okay because you probably want me to get to talking about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. So before I do want to take a moment, of course, to thank my sponsors, the Tax Mama, Eva Rosenberg, and all of her wonderfulness. I want to thank her for being a sponsor. And of course, I also want to thank the one and only David Barnett for being a sponsor as well at businessbuyeradvantage.com. Make sure you check out taxmama.com or businessbuyeradvantage.com. And as you know, you will hear their commercials over the break. But so I want to introduce my guest, actually, before I do anything else. Kiril Ravensong has been here before to talk about cryptocurrency. And I wanted to invite him back because before we talked about kind of the nuts and bolts of like what it is, blah, blah, blah. But I wanted to invite him back to talk about specifically how to invest. I am navigating in those waters just a little bit, but Kiril is definitely the expert in this area. So I just wanted to make sure that I had somebody on who was an expert who could tell us how to take advantage of all things cryptocurrency. Just so you know, Kiril has a background in psychology and education. He came to Bitshares by way of a lengthy period in a Buddhist monastery, which I absolutely love that story, where he completed his training as a lay ordained monk. And this in turn paved the way for a 3-year period as a writer of spiritual action and science fiction films in Hollywood. And he's come to the conclusion that our nation is in desperate need of a banking system with heart and devotes effort to that end. And I could not agree with him more. And actually, I hope we'll get to touch base a little bit about the government, the fact that the government is talking about some regulation. But without further ado, Kiril Ravensong, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, Melanie, it's a pleasure.
And thank you for your patience this afternoon. I appreciate it.
Great for you.
And I want to say hey to all the people in SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio Land and all the people who are here on Facebook. David, there's like 3 Davids in the Facebook chat. How are you, Davids? Nick, Greg Wilson, hello. Mildred, Barb, Tina, Derek, Emily Champion, hi. So let's talk a little bit about cryptocurrency. Like briefly, when I say cryptocurrency, what am I referring to?
So what you're really talking about is an expression of the blockchain technology. To get that refresher that they're 2 separate things. These are just means of using the blockchain to transfer value without a third party.
Okay. All right. Good. Now, that may be confusing for many of us who are used to dealing with cash or dealing with a debit card or something like that. But, you know, it used to be back in the day, for those of you millennials out there, unless you remember this from history class, our money used to be backed by gold. Our cash money used to be backed by gold. What is Bitshares backed by?
So Bitshares is actually a trading platform.
Well, actually, I asked that question wrong. What is cryptocurrency backed by? That's what I should have said.
So basically based on faith, not so different from fiat currency.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah. And as a matter of fact, you'll notice these days the currency that we use is by and large digital. There's a certain amount of cash, but it's a fraction of the transactions that we use. Most people use their debit or credit card. So in that way, using cryptocurrency, once it stabilizes and becomes part of the mainstream, will really be just the same as using your credit or debit card.
Exactly. And in fact, I think we talked about this on the last show, there are ATM machines popping up all over the place with cryptocurrency, where you can access cryptocurrency. And it really is. I used to say, I've been saying for years that I never see cash really. My financial life is just a series of electronic transactions.
That's correct, yeah.
And so cryptocurrency is not really far from that.
No, not at its root, but it really does differ in the way that it is issued, in the way that it is created, and the way that is regulated by the marketplace.
Indeed. Now, explain what those differences are in layman's terms.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
I'm sorry. Explain what those differences are in layman's terms, because you were saying that it's similar in like the how we physically transact, but it's different in other ways. And I was just saying, explain those differences in layman's terms.
So in layman's term, right now we have a central bank that is not part of our government. It is privately owned, and it issues and controls our currency. And when you look at cryptocurrency, it is almost the exact opposite. It is decentralized in the sense that there is no singular authority that dictates anything. It is based upon the entire marketplace usage, and the information is by and large public access, stored on all of the servers on the blockchain itself.
Exactly. So you can't physically hold a cryptocurrency in your hand.
That is correct.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, that may be scary to some people, but if you think about it from a physical standpoint, it's not much different than the way we do our transactions now, other than the confidence that the money's in the bank.
Correct. Yeah, most people are used to using digital cash to the bank and going through the very slow process that that entails. So as you start to get involved in cryptocurrency and cryptocurrency becomes more optimized by usage, what you will start to see is extremely fast transactions and a lot of perks. I mean, there are a lot of reasons why vendors will be excited to use cryptocurrency because they can make trades anywhere around the world. There's not the clawbacks that you get with credit cards, and there's just a number of cost savings that you get when you use it and it's fully integrated into your business.
And make no mistake, cryptocurrency's been around for a while and been used and accepted by businesses for a while. Amazon's been accepting it, Overstock.com, eBay.
Yep.
All of these companies accept cryptocurrency.
Yeah, and that's right now where there's really, I mean, you're talking about a very small portion of the population, maybe like 1% of the world population is currently involved. The reason why companies like that are doing that is because they just simply see the writing on the wall. The blockchain technology itself can very much be regarded as the Internet 2.0. It's like a leveling up of our current informational infrastructure. So it's obvious with the way things are going and globalization that people are going to be using this for many, many years to come.
Indeed, indeed. And as a reflection of that, we see the value continuing to go up. Now, one thing that is different with cryptocurrency that's different with our own currency is you don't have quantitative easing in crypto. That's a nerdy economic joke. And for those of you who are wondering what I mean, the government, you know, when it gets in trouble at times does something called quantitative easing, which basically means, you know what, we don't have enough money, let's just make more. But the problem with that, go ahead, I'm sorry.
You know, by itself, I wouldn't necessarily say that's such a disaster. I mean, that's what government's supposed to do, is spend money into existence. The problem is when you're borrowing that money into existence and you have to pay it back at interest. Now that gets really expensive.
Exactly. It certainly does. And, you know, when once we stopped backing our currency with gold and we're printing more paper, then you can see the writing on the wall that devalues what you're printing, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense.
I mean, in certain ways, I am not a professional economist, so to speak. So I do consult with professional bankers and other experts to kind of get a sense of what's going on. And from what a lot of the experts that I've talked to say is that we're heading into a deflationary market where where debts can no longer be repaid, credit starts to go into default, and then what happens is actually money goes up in value because there's so little money in relation to all of the credit that's being used.
Interesting. And that makes when you look at just the student loan crisis alone, I think that's probably going to be headed the way of the housing crisis.
There are some serious trouble signs in our global economy. More importantly, a lot of the practices that caused the 2008 crisis, something that's actually very relevant to many millennials, is still quite present for them, as it is many other people who still lost their homes and haven't quite fully recovered. The difference is that our government is no longer willing or able to do a bailout, and yet the practices continue.
Yes, that's true. That is true. And it's going to be interesting, scary interesting, to see how that turns out. So that being said, having a little bit of background on how our current cash system works and credit system works, and seeing cryptocurrency on the rise, why should people be interested in cryptocurrency?
I mean, the first question is how committed are you to change? And you have to find your particular vehicle to create wealth for yourself while at the same time putting into practice your values and your virtues. So for many people, cryptocurrency represents kind of like a libertarian ideal, a return to free market values. So in that way, you can see that as very exciting. For other people, it's scary, it's new, it's this big thing, and it's so volatile. So it's kind of hard to get a sense of the broader trajectory. So the first thing I would say for people getting involved in cryptocurrency or any investment in this environment is really don't bet your rent money. You really want to put in money that you are capable of losing. I myself have lost a whole Bitcoin. It's something that I feel really stupid about now, and it hurts, especially looking at the price something like 15,000.
Ouch.
So it happens.
Now,
it happens and it hurts.
Okay,
you got to be prepared. You got to be prepared to take some losses right now, because that's the nature of getting into a high-risk, high-reward activity.
Very true. Now, I want you to explain approximately, you don't have to get into like personal details, but approximately how much we're talking when we're talking about losing a whole Bitcoin.
Oh, I mean, at the time that I bought it, it was a few thousand. So, I figured, all right, I tried something new. I tried one of these exchange platforms, and it turned out to be a total scam. I really would have done better to do my due diligence. And that's the other thing I got to say, like, you really got to study up a little bit if you're going to do anything other than to purchase and hold it, which is my strong recommendation.
Okay.
If you're going to get involved and you're not a sophisticated trader, don't try to short the market. Don't try to get fancy in the rising and the falling. Don't try to catch up. If Bitcoin is going to do what people say it's going to do, or any of the other cryptocurrencies, you buy them, hold them, wait for them to get mass adoption and grow in value.
So just like every other financial advisor says, think long-term investing.
Really, I mean, when you look at it, you have to really look at investment as part of your strategy for long-term wealth, part of your strategy for retirement. So you really do want to make sure you have sources of revenue. But where I find that many people go wrong is they have all this revenue for this huge section of their life, but they don't plan for the future accordingly. So, of course, the earlier you start and the longer your perspective on things, the more relaxed you'll be in the volatile ups and downs, not just of cryptocurrency, but of the whole marketplace. And the other thing is, it's like we're entering into a new normal where volatility on all levels is going to be ubiquitous. There is massive uncertainty, mainly because we're seeing a convergence of three very, very powerful technologies all coming out into mass adoption all at once.
True. That is very true. Now, since cryptocurrencies are all digital, how does that affect how we are able to obtain cryptocurrency? So, like, for example, is there a different way to handle cryptocurrency if you are just purchasing it and investing it versus if you are one of those people who's using the Bitcoin ATM and, you know, have your little debit card and are actually using it as your everyday currency or as one of your everyday currencies? Is there a difference in the way you would handle that?
I mean, it really does depend on your business model. If handling cryptocurrency is part of your business, well, all the more power to you. It's a great way to get knowledgeable in its use, but ultimately, no, they work basically exactly the same. And it really revolves around your wallet. So, I mean, the first thing you do is you set up your wallet. And it's as simple as going up to a website. There are many different sites that help you to handle it. And many of the exchanges can show you how to do that. And once you have your wallet, it is yours. It has two very specific codes. One is the address, and one is the unique code that allows you to access it. The first number you can make public. That's like your routing number for a check. And the other one is private. It's like your password or the keys to your house or to a safe.
Okay, very good. So, and that, okay, that makes sense. I'm just thinking my way through this. Okay, so no matter
you're on a roll.
Okay, so well, I'm just thinking of questions that, you know, normal folks will want to know if they want to do this. Okay,
yeah. So and the other thing I'll say is that right now there are still, I mean, there are a lot of problems being worked out, but I would say that the year 2017 will be noted as the year that cryptocurrency truly established itself as a force to be reckoned with, as an economic resource that's the blockchain and proves that alternative currency is quite viable. 2018 is really going to be the year of early adopters. It's going to be the year where people get into it, and there are going to be a lot of changes made in the way the wallets function and the way people can get on, to make it way easier, way simpler than it has been for the previous 10 years.
Very true. Now, one question I have: when you're picking a wallet, are there? I would assume that there are scammers out there, even for the companies that people can use as their wallets. Is there a way to tell?
I've not had that experience. I mean, I can actually just kind of check on my phone right now the apps that I use.
Okay.
Yeah, one wallet that I use for my Bitcoin is called Blockchain.
Okay. Blockchain?
And that works really fine. Yeah, it's just called Blockchain.
Okay.
And you load it up, and it makes it's super obvious. It walks you through how to do it, and there's super easy videos that show you how to use it. I like it because of its convenience. You can take a photo of the QR code and send really easily. And it's super easy from phone to phone to transmit currency.
Nice.
So its utility is great. I also have a Bitshares wallet that I got from Bitshares.org. And that also, you know, same deal. Really sound, really simple. But yes, many of the apps that are coming out now are not necessarily vetted for security features. And I don't know if you remember way back when Mt. Gox, which represents the single largest cryptocurrency hack, one of the largest thefts of cryptocurrency in one go, they really had some very poor practices in their business. They were not investing well enough in cybersecurity, and their protocols were a little shady. They were not really. They were a little flying a little high and quick there, and they got burned for it. So, but I will also tell you that that's true almost universally, including in our government. You may remember the SEC themselves. Oh, that's so painful. They got hacked.
Yep.
And that's essential information from literally millions of Americans and millions of businesses that led to maybe a full year's worth of insider trading. So cybersecurity is going to be a huge new investment, not just for companies, not just for governments, but actually for people. Regular citizens have got to study up on how to protect themselves.
And are there specific things that citizens should look at when shopping for what wallet to use? Are there any red flags?
Kind of fair enough.
Just,
you know, yeah, I mean, I would just stick to the two that I recommended. And really what you can do is you can start looking at the message boards. In other words, If you are sophisticated enough to start looking and shopping around for cryptocurrency, I would say that you're sophisticated enough to go look up Reddit or to look up steemit.com.
Yes.
And these are social media sites with very savvy and really committed community. And they just want to let you get to the down low. Like, they'll tell you what their experiences are. This is not marketing. This is regular folks. And they'll give you really incredible advice and a wealth of experience to make a sound choice.
True story. And I find one of the things that I'll do sometimes, just from a very basic level, is just Google the name of the company and the word scam after it.
Yep, that'll get you a lot. Yeah.
And you'll be able to see now all companies, you know, I shouldn't say all, but I would venture to say that there's no company that isn't going to have that occasional person that you just can't make happy that's going to post something about it being a scam. But what you really want to look for is of course, you know, piles and piles of evidence that company
That's correct.
might have some issues. Okay, that's
correct.
Yeah, I mean, I just always, whenever you're dealing with an electronic platform, there's always that risk. It's just how it is. I think it's the world that we kind of live in at this point.
That's correct. And your main safety will be finding a community, whether it's online or in person. It really pays to go to meetup groups or to join online groups. Just so you can find kind of that network that can kind of hold your hand as you get involved in it. A lot of what cryptocurrency is about, its actual usage, is creating a community effect where we're empowered enough to create transactions between each other. For sure.
Now, somebody asked, and the only reason why I didn't ask the question yet, is because I think it might be getting a little ahead of how I'm kind of trying to go like step by step, kind of teacher style. Because somebody asked how we cash out, and I don't want to get to that part just yet. So we talk about how we get in. So we'll talk about.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But I want to make sure that Greg, my good friend Greg Wilson, who's in the Facebook chat, doesn't think I'm ignoring his question, because I'm not. But I want to walk people through kind of like how you get in, and then we'll talk about how you get out. If you want to get out. Okay, so you got to get your wallet, right?
Yeah.
And then I guess that's before you choose a trading platform, because this is a form of investing and trading.
Yeah, at this time, yes, very much so.
So now you're going to need to shop for a trading platform. I'm sure you have a suggestion or two.
Yeah, I mean, just broadly speaking, I've had fine experiences with Coinbase. I'm actually working with a group. We're developing much better platforms, and those will be up and coming. I would estimate about January 2018. So just a handful of weeks away, there'll be much better platforms coming out for it. But in the meanwhile, if you want to use Coinbase, that'll work just fine. Just remember, when you're using Coinbase or any of these trading platforms, get in and get out.
What do you mean by get in and get out?
Yeah, in other words, once the trade has gone through, just put it in your wallet, close the account, walk away, be done.
In other words, don't keep looking at it like a maniac.
Yeah, that's it. Unless you're actually engaging in commerce using cryptocurrency, you really just want to hold on to it. Just think of it as a long-term piggy bank and just wait for that thing to mature.
Now, with Coinbase, that's incidentally the platform that I just started working with, but I am in like the very beginnings of it. Yeah. What about you can set up like repeat or period. You can schedule buys, which I prefer things automated. If it can be automated, I'm doing it. Is that something you suggest, or?
Yeah, no, you really want to set your parameters. You want to be clear what you want, and let it be done automatically. So you don't have to lose sleep over it. Exactly. And it's just like any other investment. You really number one, and if you missed this part when Kiril first came on, don't bet. Well, it is kind of gambling. Don't invest your mortgage money. Invest money that you can put aside and put away and leave it there. And much like your other investments that you might have,
Don't go online looking at it every day. You're gonna make yourself nuts.
Yeah. And it is fun. I mean, with Bitcoin, I will say, I don't really look at it, and then every now and then I look and it's like, oh, look at that. I will say it's very satisfying,
Oh, for sure. And listen, the company that I'm working with look, it's getting a lot of publicity. The two guys, I lost their names again. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but the twins that Mark Zuckerberg, I'm going to be kind and say, borrowed the Facebook idea from, because I don't want my Facebook Live to go down. But those two gentlemen invested some of the settlement from that in Bitcoin, and I believe they just became billionaires.
They're the first Bitcoin billionaires. They put in about 11 million, and they're worth, my best guess is billions now.
Yep. Oh, thank you, Greg Wilson. Winklevoss are their names, the Winklevoss brothers. And
that's correct.
Yes. And so I think people hear stories like that and are like, well, let me go ahead and put the mortgage money in there if I could do a quick turnaround.
No. I mean, I watched a few very smart guys when Bitcoin first came out, and they were really excited about it, especially as it started to hit double-digit dollar value, $20. Oh my God! So they were stoked. They were literally ecstatic, and they were playing around with shorting the market. They were riding the bubbles and the waves. And I got to tell you, they were making some bank, but also quite a few of them made the wrong zig when they should have zagged, and ouch, right?
Right.
So even the best of us, like if you're not setting your parameters, you're not being very specific about how you're getting in and getting out, little mistakes can turn very big. You got to be super sophisticated if you're going to trust yourself to surf, so to speak, the rise and the fall.
That makes a lot of sense. We're up against the break, and before we go to break, this is what I want to talk about when we come back. Now, we talked about the wallet and the platform. I want to get into kind of like the minutia. If you're brand new, you're like, okay, I'm going to be safe. I'm not going to bet the farm. I have some money and I'm ready to go. Now, what do I do if I want to get involved in cryptocurrency? After I get my wallet and I've picked my platform, then what? That's what we're going to talk about on the other side of the break.
Rock on.
All right, you're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. I have Kiril Ravensong with me this afternoon, actually this evening, on the snowy evening here in Cape May County, New Jersey. We'll be back in a few moments.
Not all the king's horsemen, leftists, or convicts now preparing to vote will prevent the election of Mr. Judge Roy Moore to the U.S. Senate. LOI, Ron Edwards. On today's page from the Edwards Note, it is a secret the Republican Land Brigade leaders the like of Mitch McConnell, Paul Ryan, and many others do not like the people who have the policy and state Christian beliefs of Mr. Moore, who wants our government to operate within the restraints of the U.S. Constitution. Deputy Troop-along McConnell and his rhino cohorts sat around like immobile bootlickers when Obama was carrying out his mission to weaken the republic beyond repair. Even before Moore's foray into the race for the Senate, the Republican elites never held the supporter of the Ten Commandments and our Constitution in very high regard. There is literally a major battle going on for the heart, soul, and direction our nation is to embark upon going forward. So, the accusations of bad behavior against Moore are lacking complete credibility. If it turns out he's guilty, I'll be the first to demand that he go the way of John Conyers, back to where he came from. But for the leftists, who now allow convicted felons to vote in Alabama to help their agenda, is awful. And I thank God their effort shall fail miserably. Ron Edwards. Sponsored by the Tri-County Liberty Coalition.
My name is David Barnett, and I've been helping people buy and sell small and medium-sized businesses since 2008. So far this year, I've gone on 5 vacations. It's because I've got my own business. When you get tired of being managed by someone else and you decide that business ownership is right for you without the risk of starting your own unproven enterprise, then come over to businessbuyeradvantage.com. There are over 100 YouTube videos on buying and selling businesses that you can watch for free free. That's businessbuyeradvantage.com.
Who likes paying taxes? Nobody. That's why Eva Rosenberg from TaxMama.com wants you to pay less of them. Read Small Business Taxes Made Easy and learn how to set up a business plan that minimizes taxes, the tax benefits of different forms of financing, spot and fix errors in the 1099s, legally increase your deductible expenses with better record-keeping techniques. Don't let the IRS squeeze you out of every penny. Start deducting today. Visit TaxMama.com. TaxMama.com. That's TaxMama with one M.com.
Welcome to this week's Money Talk Minute with your business diva, Melanie Collette. This week's Money Talk Minute talks about how to improve your financial life by reading blogs. There are 3 blogs that I'd like you to check out to improve your financial life. One is called Money Under 30. Money Under 30 can be a little misleading by the title because the information is really good for people of all ages. It talks about stuff like how to buy a car, budgeting tips, how to get a loan, and anything in between when it comes to personal finance. Another blog that I'd like you to check out is called Get Rich Slowly. Now, Get Rich Slowly focuses on how to build your wealth over time. The layout is really simplistic, and they really place a premium on high-quality content in all things related to personal finance. Finally, I'd like you couples to check out Frugal Woods. Frugal Woods documents a young couple's path to financial freedom and wealth through a frugal lifestyle. Now they're living on a multi-acre plot of land in rural Vermont. The pictures are gorgeous and they're personal stories that will teach you how to manage your personal finance. That is this week's Money Talk Minute. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. Please be sure to check out Money Talk with Melanie Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 2 p.m. on the West Coast here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. Remember, this is important because after all, it is your money. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I am your business diva, Melanie Collette, and I have with me this evening Kiril Ravensong, who's talking to us about how to get involved in cryptocurrency investing. We've talked a bit about what it is and how to things that we need to look for as far as platforms. You need to understand that this is a completely digital form of currency. And so before the break, and if you're just joining us, you can go back and, of course, listen to the podcast. But before the break, we talked about finding a wallet from a reputable company, which it should be fairly simple, and then finding a reliable platform. So now, Kiril, once we've done those 2 things, it's not like there's a teller that we can go up to and hand them some money and say, okay, I want Bitshares. Like that's not how it works. So like, what do we do now?
So, I mean, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to choose, once you have the trading platform, Coinbase is simple enough to use. You just want to make sure you know what it is that you want to buy. So you should have some sense ahead of time. You should have some sort of plan and strategy as to which cryptocurrencies are interesting to you. Many people start with Bitcoin first, kind of like the gateway crypto. And that works for a lot of people. And a lot of the platforms will actually use Bitcoin first as their kind of go-to. But you also want to start looking at some of the other coins, the altcoins, some of the ones that you think has some life to them and are being undervalued and have some opportunity for that very large bump growth. When something is trading at 10 cents and goes up to 20 cents, well, you've just doubled your money. So opportunities like that.
Right, for sure. Yeah. And last time I was on Coinbase's website, which I think might have been yesterday, but I just started. So I wasn't like micromanaging, I promise. But there were a couple of other currencies, at least in the bracket that I'm in, that were available as well. But there's like, how many would you say there are now? Maybe 10, 20? There's tons now.
I mean, overall, no. I mean, there are actually thousands. We have multiple thousands of different coins. And my best guess is probably in the long haul, I only think about 20 to 40 of them will survive.
Really? That's interesting. That just creates a really competitive marketplace, though, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, that's the nature of this type of innovation. It's the same with the dot-com bubble, if you remember.
Yes.
All these companies. Well, it's because, there were a very large number of bright minds that noticed that it was very likely that sales were going to be conducted on the internet. And based on that and a few other innovations, that it made sense for people, everyone and their mother to invest in one of these online companies. Most of them, the vast majority, you don't even remember their names of.
True.
But the ones that survived and were birds in that time, they're ubiquitous. You use them perpetually.
Now, some of these companies, like Coinbase, offer opportunities to buy packages, or you can just, say, I want like, $100 worth of Bitcoin. You can do it either way. Do you have a recommendation as far as what the person who's starting out and investing in cryptocurrency should do?
It does really depend on what you're looking to do. If you're looking to simply buy and hold on, a diversified package goes a long way. If you have a bunch of them, ones that seem to be doing pretty well, and you have a sense of that can do very well for you.
Okay. And so just like regular investing, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
That's correct. Now, there are some exceptions. If it's a currency that you plan to be using, that's a completely different story. Then what you're really doing is you're loading up your wallet to use it. That's much more like a prepaid credit card. That's like loading up your wallet with currencies you can go spend and conduct transactions.
Because
so that's really the difference.
Absolutely. So it's almost like the use of a PayPal or an Apple Pay or something like that.
That's correct.
So there are two ways that you can use this currency, essentially, which is, like you said, the wallet way, so to speak, and as an investment. Greg Wilson in the Facebook chat said, I want to make millions overnight. How do I do that? Have you been listening?
The market is paved with the graves of people who have the very same desire.
Indeed.
It really doesn't work. I mean, I had business peers, when I was coming out of Hollywood, and I was very curious about learning about money and business, coming out of artist mode, so to speak. And what they said, and I'll never forget it, they said, speed kills. It's like a jet fighter. If you just try to rush everything, it crashes, burns, it's gone, right? But if you take your time, you protect your downside, you be as conservative and as intelligent as you possibly can. Even if half of your decisions fail, if the other ones carry through, that can take you to the goal that you really want to get to. You got to think long-term, long haul, and play it very defensively, especially now.
Indeed. Now, are there advantages to using cryptocurrency from a spending perspective? Let's just say that you wanted to use it like the same way you use an Apple Pay or a PayPal or something like that. Is there an advantage to using the Bitcoin currency versus regular U.S. cash?
Sure. I mean, there are a number of reasons. Again, it depends on what you're doing. International sales, it certainly has an advantage. That's the cool part. It really does depend on international, how global you are with your exchanges as a person. But otherwise, for myself, I mean, I'm entering into the phase where I'm going to be earning in cryptocurrency. So it's been nice. That's what a lot of this past year has been like. Oh my God, am I ready to commit? Am I ready, instead of dollars? Am I ready to accept this?
To get paid.
Get my revenue on this. So that's the leap that it took me. It took me a year, I think, before I felt the way I do now.
And just to clarify, Carol's answer a little bit, or I shouldn't even say clarify, expand, because you did a good job explaining it, about what you said about international. If you use currency globally, that Bitcoin is good to use, and that's because of all the exchanges.
I mean, even Bitcoin still has some processing speed issues, in my opinion, but it'll get her done. But I don't think it's fully optimized to use as a currency, first of all. Second of all, I just kind of cringe. The idea of spending Bitcoin now, when I know in just a year, it might be this huge surge in value, for me, it doesn't totally make sense. You know what I mean? But if I'm conducting transactions and it has that level of convenience, I could get it. I could see it. But for myself, I'm focusing more these days on Bitshares. And when you're using that, it's just a completely different experience, and it's just a completely different platform. That one is meant for transactions, whereas I think Bitcoin really needs to go through a major innovation. And I think if the developers are smart, and I believe they're very smart, I believe they're probably going to do something to compensate for some of their current challenges.
Okay, so let's talk about Bitshares, which you happen to know a little bit about that company. And companies like Bitshares. So tell us how it is that using a company like Bitshares is beneficial when dealing with cryptocurrency.
So the first thing is that Bitshares is an exchange platform. And when you buy Bitshares, you're really buying a stake. It's very much like buying a piece of a marketplace, like buying ownership in the stock market or buying ownership in the whole, iTunes marketplace, right? So regardless of what the other currencies do, this is a platform by which exchanges occur. That's the first element that I find really exciting about Bitshares. That means no matter what the other currencies do, as long as they're being traded and exchanged, you'll find a use for them. The second element that I like about Bitshares is that you buy them with the sense of basically never selling them. That's like your real stake in the long-term success of the whole Bitshares community. And what you can do is, from the Bitshares wallet, you can create tokens, and you can spend those tokens into being. Those tokens are far more stable for price, so you don't have the same issue as being upset about them going through these wild surges of value. When Bitshares, each share goes up, that just allows you to create more tokens, but the tokens themselves are stable. The third thing that I really like about Bitshares, and this kind of seals the deal, is that the whole platform is ready for real-time exchange, fast. We're talking about thousands of transactions per second, faster than Visa and MasterCard already, and that's before mass adoption and optimization, simply with the graphene blockchain technology.
So what it sounds like, and clarify, I'm sure, please clarify if I'm wrong, but what it sounds like is a kind of like a I don't want to use the word stock market because that's not what I mean, but a market exchange very similar to your NASDAQ or whatever, but for cryptocurrency.
That's correct.
Okay, very good. I wanted to make sure that I was grasping that correctly.
Yep.
So if you are a person in the audience who has dealt in the market and has done trading, then probably a company like Bitshares is someone that you would certainly be interested in as an investor.
Yeah.
That makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, and that's a good way to hedge your bets, in my opinion. And from the Bitshares wallet, you can then change your currencies right there in the wallet. Its utility is quite extreme, honestly. So that's why I personally, after sifting through all of them, and there's some interesting experiments going on, but Bitshares is the one that matches the values of that kind of free market exchange, life, liberty, and property.
There you go. And and before we go, I want to make sure that I touch on this. And I'm surprised nobody's asked, but I'm going to throw it out there. The government right now is not doing a whole lot of regulating, if any, I don't think, in cryptocurrency at all. But I heard my ears perked up because I was listening to a press conference last week, and a reporter asked, with how well Bitcoin is doing, is the government thinking about regulating? And I was like, shut your face. Was my first thought. Shut up. And what about that? The fact that it's not regulated?
It's not regulated currently, and a lot of what's happening is self-regulation and market curation. In this marketplace, really what you're looking at is network effects. You're looking at something that's not unlike social media, where people develop a reputation. And look, I mean, I'll tell it to you bluntly, it would be very difficult for the government to regulate it, even if they wanted to.
I agree.
It's actually in the nature of the way it's designed, that's kind of its value, is that it really can't be externally regulated.
Right.
That doesn't mean that there are not vulnerabilities in the way that the marketplace is expressing. For example, right now, I'm less worried about government than I am about a handful of whales. You know, like right now with Bitcoin, it's estimated that maybe as few as 1,000 people own almost half of the Bitcoin marketplace.
Sure.
With that much in so few hands, you could rock the boat pretty quickly. So that where things will be much, much more safe is where people are using it en masse, just like the internet. You know, if just a handful of people are using the internet, yeah, you could really heavily regulate it. But right now, because so many people are using it and so many people are hosting it, trying to regulate the mass network response would be so severe that it just wouldn't get the result that the government would like.
That makes a lot of sense. But as we know, with the government, that doesn't mean it'll stop them from trying.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of ways that one could, I guess, kind of try it, but I just don't see it. You know, and more to the point, I see blockchain technology revolutionizing banking.
Yes.
But you know, so I do expect to see central banks. I just don't think that they're going to be operating the way they do now. The big shift that you're going to see with blockchain technology, among others, is the elimination of bureaucracy. So this is something to kind of put in the cap and kind of smoke, is that, wait a minute, can you do smart contracts that regulate agreements and track all of these in real time? Yes. As a matter of fact, you can do things that government wished they could do using blockchain technology. So it's much more likely that the government is going to get involved in it themselves in a very heavy way rather than try to control.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a whole heck of a lot of sense. Please tell my audience how they can get in touch with Bitshares if they want to get more information of how to work with your company on investing in cryptocurrency.
Yep. You're going to go to bitshares.org. That's BITSHARES.org. And that's where you can get, basically, that's your one-stop shop. The website will be continuing to be developed and expanded and made more useful. But that's where you can find the information, white paper, find out about the various other products that are related to it, and get your wallet.
Absolutely. I love it. Kiril, thank you so much for being on the show this evening.
Melanie, thank you so much for having me back. And really, I got to acknowledge you. You're asked very sharp questions. I love the way you look out for your audience, and it's just great work. Oh,
you're very kind. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. Thank you. That's a huge compliment. I'm flattered.
Well, really, we need more people doing this work.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. You have a great night and a great weekend.
You too. Always a pleasure, Melanie.
Indeed. Have a good one. Well, you're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I am your business diva, Melanie Collette. That was Kiril Ravensong, who is heavily, I don't even know what his official position is. You know, these young people don't do titles anymore. But he's a big wig at Bitshares. And I posted... Yeah. What is your title?
I would say I'm a proud community member of Bitshares with honor and integrity. I mean, I have a bunch of them. You know, in my past job, I was called the Shepherd of Transition. How about that one?
You young people. I was like, I'm a pretty decent researcher, and I couldn't find your title anywhere. And I said, okay, I must not. There's a reason for that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it very much, Kiril. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, all of this is very important because, after all, it is your money. Have a great weekend.
Welcome.